Você que tá aí ouvindo esse podcast, lembra que antigamente as pessoas escreviam documentos em máquinas de escrever? Agora, enviam mensagens pelo celular de qualquer lugar. Antes, as empresas tinham um monte de papelada de reembolso de deslocamento dos funcionários. Agora, existe Uber para empresas, a plataforma gratuita mais simples e eficiente para a gestão das viagens corporativas. Acesse uber.com/empresas e saiba mais. Uber para empresas. A gente move, seu negócio avança.
RH, quer saber como voar no trabalho? É só usar a Flash. Com a Flash, você concentra toda a gestão de pessoas em um único lugar. Faça a admissão dos colaboradores e solicite mais de 8 categorias de benefícios. Ah, e você ainda pode fazer todo o controle de ponto. Conheça o novo onboarding integrado da Flash em flashapp.com.br.
Welcome to PeopleTech, the podcast of WorkforceAI.news. I'm Mark Pfeffer. Today, I chat with Dylan Teggart, Principal Analyst at 3Sixty Insights. We're going to focus on AI and what end users think about it, but also look at what else developers are building while advanced tech gets all the attention. That and more on this edition of PeopleTech. Hey Dylan, welcome. So you cover, as an analyst, basically HR technology, pretty much all of it. You've got your figures into every sort of piece of the pie. Is that right?
HR technology is obviously quite broad. So I don't cover every aspect of it. There's different analysts at 3Sixty that kind of are different things like payroll and kind of skills and stuff like that. But I focus a bit more on the workforce management side of things. And within that, like employee experience and investing in technology that aids in workforce management. So
that gives you an interesting seat, though, still, about being able to see the whole industry, or certainly a big chunk of it. Which leads me to this question, which is, what do you find is particularly interesting out there in the world of HR tech that doesn't have anything to do with AI? Is there still other development work going on?
Yeah, I think there is. I think it depends where you look. I think in some aspects of HR tech, at the moment, we're probably pretty close to hitting the threshold as to how far we can take it without a massive, just kind of revolution in the way we'll do things. So for scheduling, for example, there's only so much AI you can infuse to that. It's only going to improve so much. There's only 24 hours in a day, and it's a finite limit. What could change is potentially how people work. So the concept of work could change, and then thus scheduling would change in the way that technology interacted with it would change. Where I look at it is a bit more open-ended in terms of how we work with workforce management and how that affects the employee experience in terms of, beginning to end of that experience, how it feels when you applied to how it feels when you move on or you're let go or you find a new job, and kind of everything that happens in between there. But also, and that gives you a really broad scope of things because so many things impact your day-to-day at a job, especially at a company. And so many things that impact the employees day-to-day really impact the bottom line of the company, let's say. So like the output of that individual can fluctuate a lot based on things happening outside of work, trends happening outside of work, trends happening in work. So I enjoy the amount of variables that are put into that. And in that sense, workforce management does have a very broad horizon, you could say.
Uma pausa no seu podcast para contar que chegou o novo Peugeot 2008, um carro que impressiona até quem já viu de tudo. Conheça uma experiência de puro prazer em dirigir com acabamento sofisticado e design inconfundível. Descubra como conforto e tecnologia podem elevar o nível da sua experiência de direção. Conheça o novo Peugeot 2008 e deixe a inspiração te guiar.
Yeah, I'm curious about what are the practitioners thinking while they're looking at the new stuff that's coming out. Do you think the vendors and the end users, the true end users, are in line?
I think at times, I think I think a lot of the time it is. I think there's often an over correction, I would say, just because these are big ships. They make, all these companies are, and if you take them as a whole, they all move a bit differently than, a small company. They're not as lean and they're not as agile in terms of movement in the industry. So sometimes when they do make a move, even though it might be a small thing, it can be sometimes an overcorrection. So they maybe go too far into the AI path. Maybe they overinvest in something. They hedge themselves a bit too strong, but that does vary quite a bit. But I think the trend that we're on right now is good. I think it's looking a bit more at employee experience, which I think is a residual byproduct of the pandemic. It was kind of an unintended consequence of us all isolating, and it's had a trickling effect to now, affecting how people work. It changed the way people go to work, which then has led to this broader trend of what is employee experience, because it's now no longer just we go into an office. It's the way we work has changed, and because of that, the way companies operate has changed, and the landscape of what makes up work, let's say, is evolving. And I think we're in a transition period into what the future is going to hold. And because of that, it's quite exciting. So there are these bandwagon-y type trends that are occurring. AI is not, I wouldn't say is bandwagon-y, because it is a bit more it's more revolutionary in its potential. But there's little cottage industries that pop up along the way that are kind of here and gone. But then I think we're seeing that a little bit now as people are kind of, as the economy's fluctuated a little bit in the past 6 months, people are beginning to maybe be a bit more selective with where they place their investments for the future, if that makes sense.
Well, Dylan, thanks very much for taking the time. And I know we'll talk again, but it was great to meet you, and it was great to talk with you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Mark. Looking forward to talk some more.
My guest today has been Dylan Teggart, Principal Analyst at 3Sixty Insights. And this has been PeopleTech, the podcast of WorkforceAI.news. We're also a part of the Work Defined Podcast Network. Find them at www.wrkdefined.com. And to keep up with AI technology and HR, subscribe to Workforce AI Today. We're the most trusted source of news in the HR tech industry. Find us at www.workforceai.news. I'm Mark Pfeffer.